Hey everybody, Carl from Cheap Smut. Quick housekeeping note. Early in the episode, I teased that I'm going to tell everybody what book Katie is reading next week, and then I never do it. So real quick, the book that we're doing next week is Claimed by the Cthulhu by Wendy Go. There you go. And with that, please enjoy this episode of Cheap Smut featuring guest co-host Gwendolyn Harper.
A sexy animatronic coyote in a pinstripe suit with a rainbow tie holding a chainsaw is chasing down drug dealers and coked out moms.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Cheap Smut. My name is Carl Mizell.
And I'm Gwendolyn Harper.
And this is a podcast that is thrilled to have Gwendolyn Harper on as my guest co-host and our very first guest co-host. How does it feel to be making podcast history?
I'm honored. Genuinely honored.
You should be. You should be.
Yes.
Because as far as we're concerned, this is America's premier smutty podcast. We're just going to lean into it, manifest it. I'm kidding. We're honored to have you as well, Gwen. You have become a friend of the show over the past couple of months, so much so that you're in both of our phones as Gwenny.
I love that I'm Gwenny. I love that I'm not full Gwendolyn. I love that I'm Gwenny. It makes my heart so very happy.
that was Kate. That was all Katie going, she's a Gwenny. I'm gonna go with Gwenny.
And I love that it's also it's a nickname of a pen name. So it's not even like my actual name, but it's still, it cracks me up. I love it.
You have a tertiary name. Look at you. Not many people can go 3 deep on a name.
I know. It feels a little like it's extra special and then also a little meta.
It is.
I have a nickname of my pen name. It's crazy.
Yeah. And the other Gwendolyn Harper, she's not Gwenny. She's Gwendolyn Harper.
No, I know. Again, she just is the nicest. Like, she just looks so calm and nice, and here I am.
Yeah.
Just
go back and listen to our author profile with Gwendolyn Harper, and you can understand that joke. How are you today? How have you been?
I'm great. I have been looking forward to this all day. Like,
good.
I had friends be like, "Oh, do you want to go out?" And I'm like, "No, I'm so excited to record a podcast."
Can't. Podcasting. Gotta cast a pod. I just got to make sure I know it. Now, I'm going to tell you this right off the bat. You listen to the show, so you know I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. So I want you to think about this. If you can, while we're talking, I'm going to ask you what you're into. So if you have something you're into.
I've already been thinking about it.
Good.
I came prepared.
See, you are so prepared. So what exactly, now, we've been speculating, and I know that you had told Katie something that you might be doing. So just tell us all, what are you going to be regaling me with this evening?
Oh, Carl, I'm so happy. I'm so excited that I get to tell you about this story. When I texted Katie, I was like, okay, because I wanted to run it by a little bit by her to make sure that it wouldn't be like too weird or too upsetting. And then I remembered what podcast I would be guesting on, and there is no such thing as too weird. So today, for our listeners and your enjoyment, I am covering Frankie's Funhouse by Beatrix Hollow.
Oh, now Beatrix, I'm pretty sure we've done a Beatrix Hollow book on this show before.
I believe so. I don't remember which episode, but I believe that you guys have covered them before. Was
that the Hollow Queen?
I just don't remember which story it was.
It sounds familiar, so let's just go with that. But this is the one, if I remember correctly, all I know is that this is sort of a take on a Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And it is so worth it. So the reason I wanted to do this was mainly because I read it. I downloaded the Creepy Court Anthology, and then I read this specific story. It's like the second story in the anthology. And it rewired my brain in such a way, and I know Katie has used that phrase before of like, this book rewired my brain. This story rewired my brain, and I was like, who do I talk to about this? And then almost immediately, Katie was like, hey, do you want to guest on the show? And I was like, excellent. I know exactly who I'm going to talk to about this.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a lot of friends who read smut the way that like Katie does, and like you guys talk about it. So this is just, I'm like, oh my God, I finally get to like word vomit about this story that has like changed my brain.
She's going through that right now, as I'm sure you're well aware. She is now on book 4 of Bro and the Beast. She is consumed.
She's like binging them, and I'm so excited.
Yeah. And a fun sneak peek at what's going on behind the scenes here at Smutco Industries. In a couple of weeks, I am reading not just I read a Chuck Tingle for the show. I am reading.
Yeah, you read Bisexual Mothman, right?
Yeah, Bisexual Mothman Mailman makes a special delivery in our butts. But this,
gotta get the full title.
You have to put some respect on that name.
Yes.
I discovered accidentally on TikTok a writer named KD, the letter K, the letter D, Casey. They write for Baseball Prospectus. Like, they write for, baseball publications that I read, but they also write smut, and they have a smutty series that I'm not diving into, but they have another book that's separate from all that called One True Outcome, which is a sort of it's a spin on a baseball term. And so I'm going to be reading that and presenting that to Kate in a couple of weeks in honor of the start of baseball's regular season.
Baseball season. Oh my God.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Exactly. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And I already know what we're reading for the show next week as well. So I can tell everybody at the end of the episode. I said it. She sent it to me, and I read the author's name, and I went, "What? Oh, okay. It's a pun. I get it."
Oh, another author name pun. I love those.
I'll tease it right now. The author's name is Wendi, Wendi. Last name Gogh. Wendi Go.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, that's exactly the same reaction I had. So, this book. For those of you who aren't familiar, the Creepy Court Anthology is a 2-volume series that features a lot of the authors that we have covered on this show, and a lot of authors that we haven't covered on this show. Is this from the first volume or the second volume?
I believe this is the first volume.
Okay. Well, I will double check, and I'll make sure that it's correct in the show notes.
Okay, good. Thank you, because I didn't even think to look at that before. I was too busy writing my how many pages? 10 pages of notes.
Oh goodness. Well, we try to keep this around an hour.
No, it's also a small notebook, so it's not. It won't be too much. But I just was like, I felt like a mad scientist, like furiously writing my notes, being like, I have to get it all down. I have to remember.
Yeah. So to extrapolate further on the details of the book, it is sort of falls outside of the purview of the cheap smut ethos, which is always $4.99 or less. Mm-hmm. But we wanted to make an exception because a lot of the authors that we love on the show are in that book. And this is a special occasion. Plus, we've done a mini episode on I think Good Boy was the one.
Yes. Yeah. And also, the Creepy Court Anthology is now off of Amazon, I believe. Or at least it's not in its entirety on Amazon anymore. So you can get Frankie's Funhouse, like, separately. It's on KU, and you can get the ebook for $2.99. So it's, like, you can get this separate if you listener are like, okay, I only want to read this. You can go get that.
That is perfect, and I'm glad you got pages. That in. In how many pages?
82.
Perfect. That is
perfect.
This is fun, and I know that you know this, but maybe the listeners don't know this. When we first started the show, Katie put herself behind the 8 ball so hard because she's like, I'm going to read big books, Lady of What's Great Men, or Baby in the Late Night Howlers. We did a 3-parter on A Soul to Keep, and at some point we were like, we can't keep. You're killing yourself trying to read these books in a week, while
also being parents like that. To me, I'm like, if I tried that, I would go crazy, and I only have 2 dogs that need my attention, so I can't even imagine having children and like a life. And also trying to read, like, it helps. A Soul to Keep is huge, right?
It's over like 400. I think it's over 400 pages. It's massive. It's a thicken. It's insane. It helps that that our son is in school during the day, and then our daughter is in that stage where she's getting unmanageable, but you can redirect her with food.
Sure,
Still, so It's like,
still
get
in
off the
food motivated stage.
yeah, get off the table, don't climb on that, eat this Rice Krispie bar, or as we call them in this house, Rispy bars. Rispy bars. That's my son. He started doing that, and then the daughter just picked up. So it is what it is. So it's available on KU for $2.99. Mm-hmm. Do you have the content warnings for this book?
So I have both the author's content warnings, and then also I added one just because I do feel like it's necessary. So the content warnings are MF, human and animatronic, explicit violence, gore and death and murder, explicit sexual content, dubious electric play, sudden submission, degradation, side character drug dealing and drug use, a beheading and other loss of limbs, unrecommended use of a chainsaw, Satanism, violent use of a spork, and bad pizza. So those are the author's content warnings. And then I also just added like blanket dubious consent because of what I'm about to tell you. So blanket dubious consent.
That's I have not I've used and heard the word dubious more in the last year than I had in my previous 44.
Welcome to the smut world.
Yeah, exactly.
It happens a lot.
But I love that universally the smut world / industry just settled on dubious as the perfect word for that. Not questionable, not dubious.
Well, I also think that dubious, it has its own connotation of like, okay, this is maybe iffy, but also we're not going to not do it. Like, dubious is kind of the like, okay, sure. Like, we can be convinced. And I think it just has it. I don't know if this makes any sense, but I feel like the word dubious feels like the color gray. So it just kind of makes sense.
It does. It does have that sort of synesthetic dubious. Sort of
dubious.
Like it dubious.
It feels
but
like
not
a
just gray.
mid-level gray. Just blankets over something. So that makes sense to me.
Now, you're an East Coaster, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Have you been east enough to the ocean? East?
Yes, I'm like a mile from the ocean.
Okay.
Currently.
So I imagine the gray of dubious as sort of like that gray on an October day at the beach where it's like perfect. It's maybe 40 degrees, but with the wind it feels like negative 800, but for some reason a nice big sweater does all you need. That gray.
You have to be in like a fisherman sweater and like in a coat. Yes. And when you can feel the fog on your skin, that's the level of, that's dubious. That is the like texture of dubious.
Dubious gray. Right?
Dubious
gray.
Gray.
Sounds like the character name.
I want to go to
Gray.
Home Depot and ask if they stock dubious gray. Is that weird? Like, I just want to go in and be like, do you guys have dubious gray? And just watch them spiral.
Or they go, oh, you mean the kind of gray when you go to the ocean in like October and it's really cold and you need a fisherman sweater? That one?
That one, and then they're like, we'll be right back.
Aisle 47. Hold on. Here, I'll get you a swatch while I do that. Hold on.
We'll get it for you in 3 minutes or less.
All right. With all of that said, let's just fucking get into it, Gwen. Let's go.
It. Okay, so we start out this story by meeting the FMC Ramona. Also, this is set in the 80s. So I need you to, very quickly, we're going to picture the 80s. Some of us weren't even around in the 80s, but it just smelled of like hairspray, and there was like classic rock in the background, Guns N' Roses. Everything was terrible. Everybody smoked inside, and it was just a real rough time. It was kind of great, but it was also a wild time. So just going forward, remember it's the 80s. Our FMC Ramona is on her way to an interview at Frankie's Funhouse. She is in desperate need of a job. She's trying to get out of her mother's house, and she lives there with her, like, 3 siblings. They're described as being younger than her. She's kind of described as, like, early 20s. I wouldn't say older than, like, 22. She seems very young, but we're not given an exact age. And her siblings are much younger than her, and so she's, like, desperate to get out of her house. And so she's like, I need a job. I'm heading to Frankie's Funhouse. And in the Creepy Court Anthology, Frankie's Funhouse is part of the Creepy Court Mall. So she's like walking through this mall, and she's hungover and starving. And so she's going immediately to the food court to grab like a corn dog. And she is on her way. Also, her mother, so there's like a short description of her mom, and immediately her mom reminded me of, do you remember the Amy Poehler character from Mean Girls, the cool mom?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it was like, it's like an 80s version of Amy Poehler's The Cool Mom, because Ramona is reminiscing about the fact that she's hungover because she got drunk on wine coolers with her mom.
Oh,
and so
wow.
which is a bad hangover, by the way. Like, I don't know if you ever had a wine cooler stage. It's bad.
Now, for those of you who are not familiar, I turned 46 this year, which means that I was born in 1978. I absolutely have crushed my share of Seagrams and Bartles and James.
Bartles and James. I think I had one of the worst hangovers of my life because of Bartles and James. The fuzzy navel, and I think they had a like strawberry one. Oh,
yep.
I still, if I get that whiff, I will absolutely just lose my mind.
Same with me and Zima.
Oh no! Oh god! You're braver than me for even trying it. I sniffed the bottle once at a party and immediately was like, absolutely not.
Not to digress too much, I was a big coward growing up. I didn't. I consumed alcohol. Like, again, sneaking wine coolers. You know, a wayward uncle probably gave me a beer, but I didn't drink like in earnest until I was 19, and then from there it was just like, oh, I'll try fruity stuff. But then, of course, you know, your guy friends give you a hard time about it. They engage in a little, fun toxic masculinity. And then you get older and your palate refines. But for a while there, I was just like, yeah, man, I'll have a Zima. Can you toss you got a Jolly Rancher? Toss that in there. I hear that makes it taste different. I don't know.
Just makes it better. Sure.
It does. That's what my brain used to tell me. It doesn't.
Isn't Zima just straight grain alcohol?
No, it was like a malt beverage.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay. I just remember smelling it and being like, no, I was physically repulsed. My body couldn't handle it.
I would have rather had straight grain alcohol, quite frankly, because then at least I could have forgotten.
Could have forgotten it all.
Yes. Ramona is hungover.
Ramona is hungover, yes. So she grabs herself a corn dog from the Creepy Court food court. And then I also wrote here a side note about Frankie's. It's a weird mashup of like a Chuck E. Cheese and a Pizza Hut, which I get, like, that's Chuck E. Cheese. But it's centered around the character of Frankie, who apparently had a famous kids TV show in the 80s. So it had, like, the way that it was described reminded me a little bit of, like, if Barney started a Pizza Hut. Where it's like Barney had this famous kids show and then was kind of had to, I don't know, pay off some taxes or something. It was like, let's start a restaurant. So that's kind of where we're at with Frankie's. So Ramona heads to Frankie's and she interacts with a gum-smacking NPC by the name of Maureen. And it was just so beautifully written about, like, you could just smell the bubblegum wafting off of her.
Oh, I hate that smell too.
Do you hate the smell of bubblegum?
I hate bubblegum. I don't chew bubblegum.
Oh.
I don't chew gum at all.
I could kind of get that. I can only chew it like once a month because it's too exhausting for me. My jaw gives out. And so from that interaction, she is then told to go see Gus, who is working in the back. He's the owner.
Okay.
Gus owns and operates Frankie's. And when we meet him, he is performing maintenance on one of the animatronic humanoid animals behind the curtain on this stage. Ramona is extremely freaked out by all animatronics and mascots. There's a scene where she's walking through the food court area and she sees like a purple mascot for one of the restaurants and absolutely is like, nope. Like, she has a phobia. So moving forward, she has this weird fear of animatronics.
But yet. Okay.
All right. Fear makes her horny. We don't know.
I don't know, but also, I mean, if I've learned anything in the time that I've done this podcast, it's that the characters in these books don't always make the most sound decisions. No,
usually not. And that is for sure true for Ramona. Gus is described... I imagined Gus like Emil. Have you seen The Breakfast Club?
Yeah. I was born in 1978.
Right.
I've seen The Breakfast Club.
So Some people haven't, and then I quote it, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Oh, never mind. Okay."
Some people live sad lives. Sorry.
Some people live very sad lives. Exactly. He is described essentially like Emilio Estevez from The Breakfast Club. Like, very cute, blonde. He's got like the short hair, jock style. He's dressed classic 80s jock with like the rolled cuff jeans, white socks, New Balance shoes, and he's in some sort of like college shirt. And he just is like the quintessential like hot guy. And he's young. He's Ramona's age. So she's a bit confused. She's like, I don't understand. You're the owner. And she even brings that up. She's like, how old are you? And he thinks she's hitting on him. And she's just like, no, how old are you? Like, what's going on? He starts to say something about how Ramona's dad helped her get this job. And before he can even get the sentence out, Ramona's like, that's not my dad. We are then sort of introduced to, at least through her recollections of her dad, her mom's ex, her ex-stepdad.
Okay.
And his name is Ray. And Ray's a shitbag.
Noted.
Ray sucks. And so she immediately is like, he's not my dad, like, don't even, and Gus is like, oh, okay. So anyway, here's your job. And she's essentially hired on the spot. There's no real interview. She's actually kind of confused. She's like, wait, so today is my first day? And he's like, well, yeah. So she just starts. She is deeply unnerved by the close proximity to the animatronics and by the outfit, the uniform that she has to wear. It is described as a slutty clown outfit.
You have my attention. Go on.
Mm-hmm. And the way that it is described, to me, I said it's like as if Harley Quinn and a court jester decided to start a fashion brand.
Okay.
So it's got like she has to wear like a collar with bells, a weird sweater thing, a pink crop top, and then rainbow like shorts that are way too small for her.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. For a pizzeria? For like a pizza joint? What are we doing?
I don't think OSHA would sign off on that. I feel like they're not going to look great with slip-resistant shoes, for one.
Well, speaking of shoes, she doesn't wear shoes. She has to skate everywhere. So she has rollerblades or roller skates are part of the uniform.
That's right. This is the 80s when nobody cared about safety.
Nobody cared about safety, and also I think they just assumed that rollerblades were more efficient. Like, the 80s were that efficiency mindset, right? So it's like, instead of walking, we'll just rollerblade everywhere.
Exactly. Which, I guess, it's faster, it's good cardio.
Yeah, but like, that shit, I can't rollerblade. I never learned how to roller skate. I never learned how to ride bike. So to me, I just have, like, my center of gravity is like, absolutely not.
Okay. Not to digress too wildly again. I used to work in the Birch Run outlets here in Birch Run, Michigan. For a long time, it was the second busiest exit on I-75 next to Disney World. Like, it was huge. And they had a Timberland store in there, and it was all like really smooth concrete and linoleum. And so at night, I would wear my rollerblades in there. I'm from Michigan. I was practically born on skates. Mm-hmm. So I would go in there with my really nice, like, several $100 like inline hockey skates, and I would do stock in my skates, and I'm skating backwards and I'm stopping and doing all this stuff. And my manager is like, I swear to God, if you fall and don't die, I will kill you. But I'm not going to say anything because we get out of here by 9:15 when you do this. So...
Like I said, it's efficiency. You were like, listen,
yeah.
I can be a little reckless, but I will be fast.
Never,
just like turn the other way. Don't pay attention.
I was there for 2 years. Never once hurt myself. So, but then again, I wasn't skating around a pizzeria. You get a stray piece of pepperoni in your bearings and you're done.
Oh yeah. Oh god. Then it's just faceplant right into the really grody carpet. If I look at a skateboard, I bruise. Like, I can't even attempt it. And I had an ex who was like, oh, I'll teach you how to ride a bike. And I was like, you will never get near me with a bike. Absolutely not. Get away from me. I just don't trust myself anymore. And now I'm too old and I'll probably break something. So I'm like, you know what? It just won't happen. And it's fine. It's fine that I'll just never learn.
It's good to know your limitations.
I know my limitations.
So she's got these rollerblades and this costume, all right? Got it.
So she's in this Harley Quinn court jester getup and rollerblades, or roller skates, not blades. They're 4, but still, it's like, this poor girl. So she, on her first day, like, she has just gotten into the outfit, and they're coming out of the, like, I guess locker room area where they change, and almost immediately she, like, nearly collides with her ex-stepdad, Ray. And so we immediately are introduced to him, and he's described as, like, a character from the second half of The Wolf of Wall Street. He's in a sweater and gold chain, and he is smoking inside again because it's the 80s, and he deals coke out of the back of Frankie's Funhouse.
Again, the 80s.
The 80s. And it becomes a running theme throughout the story of him dealing coke and, like, being just the worst guy. But also the fact that the parents are bringing their kids to Frankie's Funhouse. And there's a scene it's a little bit further on, but there's a scene where the 2 moms show up with, like, a gaggle of kids, and they just, like, let their kids loose on this arcade, and they have cigarettes hanging out of their mouths, and they just immediately go back to the back room, and it's like, oh, okay, so, like, all of the parents are here to get coke. Just let their kids eat really bad pizza.
I can't believe how often our parents are just totally cool with going to this place. Yeah, exactly. My mom would never take me anywhere, but that's because she wasn't addicted to coke. Apparently, all I had to find was the closest Chuck E. Cheese that had a dirtbag coke dealer in the back, and then get my mom addicted to coke.
Apparently, the only way to have a decent childhood in the 80s was to have a mom addicted to coke, because then you got to go to an arcade all the time.
That's
and
where
I just didn't
fucked
have
up.
that. My mom fucked up too. She wasn't addicted to coke. Although I did have a lot of Chuck E. Cheese birthdays, and I think it was because my mom was like, yeah, this is like, it's all wrapped into one. I don't have to worry about dinner. I don't have to worry about entertainment. We just go to this place, you win a bunch of tokens and you get your prize, or you win a bunch of tickets, you get your prize, and you go home tired and happy. Like, it's fine. But I had the last one when I was like 8, so haven't been into a Chuck E. Cheese since.
There was a Chuck E. Cheese nearby us, way over on Miller Road. We weren't going to mess with Miller Road. Instead, we would go to the little town of Genesee, Michigan, and go to Huckleberry Junction, which, in my opinion, is superior to Chuck E. Cheese. It had 2 floors, all these arcades up on the balcony, like arcade cabinets up on the balcony, so your parents could sit down in the middle of like the big floor area. And there were cabinets against the walls under that balcony, but you could basically, it was almost not quite a panopticon, but you could see your kids at pretty much every spot, and then they could just sit down there and just, I don't know what they did without cell phones, but
ew, they had to talk to each other? Gross.
I know. But my mom could just drop us off there, and we could, a $5 bill would keep me entertained for like 2 hours, which is, you can't do that anymore.
I'm not trying to be nostalgic for a decade that was absolutely worse off, but I'm kind of nostalgic for a decade.
Yeah, it does have its appeal sometimes.
Sometimes
let's see how does it turn out for Ramona? Let's see how that goes.
And let's see how it goes. So Ray makes some, other than being a drug dealer, he also makes some sexually inappropriate comments to Ramona. It's not, I mean, I don't want to say, like, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that bad, but it's pretty bad. He's just gross. He's slimy and gross. And she shuts him down almost immediately, and she has to skate away. So she's like, I have to leave this conversation. I skate away from you.
Well,
so she leaves.
There you go. You just gave us something very important for the women that are listening, or for people who are, male, attracted to male people. Just wear skates everywhere you go, and then if the slightest bit of skis, like, across it, just skate hard in the other direction. Learn to skate backwards, and the sass will immediately just, you skate away, and you're just like
give him the double middle finger,
double bird,
like,
as you skate away backwards.
That is actually a really great idea. Now I'm wishing I know. Skate. So she's being trained, and that's when it's like she's having to watch the really terrible, grainy television VHS tapes of telling her how to, do her job, which is essentially like, don't let people steal from you. And it's very funny. And the woman in the video is described as having like a really strained smile and kind of looking like her eyes are screaming, "Help me," which I think is very funny. And while she's being trained, Ramona keeps getting these glimpses of the animatronics through the curtain. And she keeps getting like that unnerved feeling of like somebody's watching me. And it's the NPC Maureen is like, "Oh, it's the uncanny valley." Like, that's why, because they have humanoid, features, but they're animals. So after that, Gus explains to Ramona that in order to get the animatronics ready for the show, she has to put them on a loop from dinner to close, so from like 6 until like 10, and she has to use floppy disk to program them.
5-inch floppy disks.
And it's so funny. I have to give, like, obviously I'm giving Beatrix Hollow so many kudos for this story. I wrote so many notes about this. But I really loved all of the smaller details of the 80s that she put in there. Not just like, oh, it's the 80s, so everything's like day glow. It's the 80s, and therefore like Ramona has a perm, and the bubblegum smacking, and there's just certain things that like really set the stage in a really impressive way. So kudos to Beatrix for all of that. So Gus is training her a little bit more, and then Ramona asks, "Well, where's the floppy disk for Frankie?" And he says, "Oh, Frankie is a different model. He's special. You don't have to worry about him." And she's like, "Chill. All right, sounds great." The other animatronics names are Razzle Rizdog, Maribel Mozzarella, and Dizzy Duck.
Never gonna remember those.
No, and they don't really come up until later, but I did love those names. I thought they were very funny.
They're good.
Gus continues to reference Frankie as if he is sentient, which makes Ramona incredibly nervous. She's like, "Why do you keep talking about Frankie as if he's a person?" And Gus doesn't give any explanation. Gus gets so worked up over her questioning that he snaps and like grabs her and is like, "Stop asking questions about Frankie." Like, he goes from 0 to 60 like that. Like, and he's like, "Stop asking questions about Frankie. Stop it, stop it, stop it." And
that's all the shitty steroids they got back in the 80s.
Yes, exactly. It's all of the stuff that he's on to make him look like Emilio Estevez. It takes a lot of effort to look like a hot jock from the 80s. So he flips out, and this is where Ramona's inner monologue explains that she has the nickname of Psycho because she actually gets right. She actually gets a little bit of enjoyment out of a brawl, and this comes up later. But she starts to laugh because Gus is like hurting her, and she's like, "Oh, great, I get to like punch you in the nose." And he's like, "What is wrong with you?" So she's giggling a little bit, and from behind, "Oh, I'm sorry, I have left out a very key piece of information. Frankie is in the room with them. Frankie the animatronic." I'm so sorry about that. Frankie is in the room with them. He is in the office where Gus is explaining the computers. He's like in the room behind. And so Ramona is like, "What is the deal with Frankie?" And he's like, "Stop asking about Frankie." She's like, "Right, but he's literally behind me. Like, what am I supposed to do right now?" Yeah.
And then Frankie's like, "I'm right here. You can just address me."
I mean, you're not far off.
Oh, okay. So, I jumped ahead.
Yeah, you're not far off at all. So when Gus snaps and he grabs Ramona and he's like, "Stop asking about Frankie," from behind her, she hears a like metallic-y voice go, "Uh-oh, that's not good." It's pretty great. The one-liners that Beatrix Hollow wrote for Frankie are so good that I think I highlighted all of them in my ebook copy. I was like, these are so great. They're so funny. So in that moment, Gus then looks horrified, and Ramona's like, "What is she thinks he's malfunctioning." And so she keeps asking questions of like, is he malfunctioning? Should we like unplug him? What are we doing? Gus is talking to Frankie. He's telling him, "You can't do this. I have the power. Like, you're not supposed to do this. Like, you have to stay still. I'm in control." And Frankie starts moving on his own. Frankie steps forward and in a more human voice says, "I've had enough of your shit, Gus." And then promptly uses his metal claws to eviscerate him.
Oh, okay. So Yeah, I mean, it's only 82 pages. We gotta
It's only 82 pages.
Gotta kick this shit off quick. That is the thing that whenever we do shorter, like short books on this show, that is one thing that I still can't get used to is the whiplash of like a 67-page insta-love.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting, like, I think some of them, you're like, okay, sure, this almost makes sense. But then some, you're like, I'm sorry, we went from, like, talking about floppy disks to now that, like, what's happening? It just happens so fast, but,
yeah.
You know, you're here for the ride. It's okay.
There's Viscera. There's Viscera now.
Now, yeah, absolutely. I think we're only on, like, page 10. like,
oh, God.
Almost immediately, yeah.
Here we go.
So, Frankie uses his metal claws to rink, and he slices through Gus's chest, I believe, and then Gus screams, and in a horrifically funny way says, "It's quiet time, kids," and then slices Gus's throat.
So what you're telling me is that Frankie is not fucking around.
Frankie's not fucking around at all.
Okay, noted.
It's pretty great. So I was purposely vague about Frankie before, and it's because of this I wanted to officially introduce Frankie. So this is where we meet Frankie, truly. Our MMC Frankie is a 7-foot-tall animatronic humanoid coyote. He wears a tailored striped suit with a rainbow tie. He is covered in synthetic fur with unusually attractive features, including a perpetually sexy grin and purple eyes.
What? I was going to say, I know somebody's going to fuck this animatronic.
Somebody's going to fuck this animatronic.
He better be hot. Yeah, so he better be hot. And as soon as you said 7 foot tall, I was like, oh, here we go.
It's I think in all romance novels, it's like the taller they are, the hotter they are. But in real life, it's like once you get past like 6'6", we have some issues. Like, are you hot or are you just tall? We don't really know, but in romance novels, it doesn't matter. It's both.
It's a steep drop off on the diminishing returns. At some point, eventually, it's just uncomfortable. There's a lot of physical pain. People aren't supposed to be that large.
I start to worry about their heart after, once you're past 6'8", I'm like, is your heart okay? Do we need to get you to a doctor?
You gotta move that blood. You gotta move that blood a long way. But Frankie doesn't have that problem.
It's a lot of blood, too. It's a lot. So
exactly.
And also when Ramona first sees Frankie, I was purposely vague for a reason. When she first sees him, when she's training and she looks through the curtain and she sees him, she even describes him as like, why did they have to make him hot? Like, she laughs at the fact that whoever designed the animatronic purposefully made him hot. He has broad shoulders, he's got all these nice features, and he has this like very tapered waist. And I'm like, so they gave the coyote a swimmer's bod? Like, I don't... What's going on?
Got to. Somebody...
You have to.
Whoever made that is like, I'm going to make an animatronic somebody wants to fuck. That's what I'm going to do.
And she did. And it's great.
There you go.
So,
spoiler.
Frankie is absolutely not... Yeah. Frankie's absolutely nonplussed about the fact that about the murder he committed. Ramona is understandably freaking out. And because she is still in her roller skates, when she's trying to get away from Frankie, she slips and she just falls flat on her ass. Like her roller skates just go right over her and she falls. And when he sees that she has fallen, he turns around and is like, oh no, are you okay? And like bends down to help her. And she's like, oh my God, this animatronic coyote is like right here in my face. She is disconcerted. Ramona tries to help Gus, but pretty quickly we realize he's a goner. He is gushing blood. Blood is everywhere. Yeah. It is so much viscera, so much blood, and it just gets worse from here. Like, the amount of blood, the amount of, like, you know, in like some spicy books, or I feel like there are some like spicy book like content creators, they will do a like percentage number of like spicy scenes versus plot. I feel like there should be one for this specific story about like how much blood there is per page. And like ratio, where's the pie chart of like blood, sex, all of the, okay, here we are. Frankie, so she's covered in blood. She's trying to help Gus. Gus is a goner. Frankie leans down and right in her ear, with his weird animatronic coyote mouth, says, I think I love you, Ramona. And because she's very shaken, she just kind of hisses out like, well, fuck me. And he goes, well, if you insist. And we are off to the races.
Here we go.
Here we go. It's not quite the fucking yet, but we're getting there. We're getting close.
Pre-fucking.
So Ramona is stuck in this office with what she thinks is a dead body and a homicidal animatronic coyote. And then somebody starts banging on the door. And it's a disgruntled woman. She's bought the birthday package for her son, and they can't seem to... She's like, I want a manager. We were supposed to start the show 15 minutes ago. Where's our pizza? Like, it's awful. And Ramona is just standing there like, my boss is dead. What am I gonna do? And it turns into, I feel like if anybody has worked in the service industry, I think they would appreciate this montage that now occurs, because it is, if you've ever worked in a restaurant, it feels like this every rush hour. Like every rush you have, it feels like you are covered in blood, like something terrible has happened in the back. You were injured or covered in blood, and like some woman is just screaming like, I want my discount pizza. And you're just trying not to have a panic attack. So she is just trying to get through. So there's this beautiful like description of just how terrible it is to work at a children's restaurant / arcade while also trying to cover up the fact that her boss has been murdered and there's a possessed animatronic in the back. So she's locked Frankie in the back office, and she's trying to go about her day. She's like putting the pizzas in the oven, trying not to catch her weird clown costume on fire, and trying to roller skate all around. And all of these kids are like ravenous, and at one point they start chanting, we want Frankie, and then it just turns into Frankie, 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 and it gets to this rancorous din, and then it's described as like there's a shift in the air, and they turn on her, and they have an expression of like hunger and chaos, and it sounds like a satanic ritual. Like the way that they are chanting Frankie's name, it sounds like a satanic ritual. And she is like backing up, like wheeling backwards, trying to get away from these children, because they will absolutely children of the corn her. Like they're gonna surround her and sacrifice her to an old god. In a delirious rage, she snaps, and she's like, fine, you want Frankie? Here's Frankie. And she unlocks the door.
I thought you were going to say because she loves a brawl, she just starts fighting children.
I mean, at one point, you think there is a scene where one of the children who is supposed to have like the birthday package is bawling her eyes out because Frankie isn't there to sing her happy birthday. And Ramona like dips down and is like, yeah, but like Frankie's not real. He's just an animatronic, like whatever. And this girl's like, I want him to sing for my birthday. And she looks at her and is like, you know what? I want Frankie to go back to hell where he came from. Like she just absolutely
shit in one hand and want in the other, and see which one fills up first, kid.
Exactly. And it also, like, I love children. I'm a part-time nanny. I love kids, but kids in groups are terrifying. So like kids in like situations like this, Beatrix Hollow truly tapped into the fear of like, what happens if like 40 kids just turn on you at once? Yeah. Like it's terrifying. It would be terrifying, right?
It's why Kate and I stopped it too, because we didn't want to be outnumbered.
You never want to be outnumbered. Nope. Never, ever, ever. Yeah. So she unlocks the door, and Frankie bursts out of the room and then immediately like closes the door behind him and locks it. But there is still banging happening behind the door. So she is like, who's banging on the door? Yeah, I was a little curious because you said what she thinks is a dead body. Mm-hmm. So I'm tell me why I'm curious. It's because Gus is not actually dead, and Gus is pissed because Gus is he doesn't like getting stabbed. Who would? So when Frankie escapes the office, so Ramona, again, because she's on her skates, starts to flail backwards, and he catches her, and it's that like kind of romantic, like, oh, I caught you, and she's like pressed up against his chest, and she starts to kind of be like, oh no, he's hot, and then she's like, ew, no, I don't know about this, no. Oh, okay, so she did question it for at least a second. All right, she questioned it for there are moments throughout this where Ramona questions not only her attraction to Frankie, but also her sanity, and we as the reader are also questioning her sanity. We're like, girl, I think you might need some help. Like something's going on here. So he catches her, and she has this thought of like, oh, he's oddly handsome. And she peers directly into his mouth because, again, he's this big giant. He has this gaping maw of a coyote mouth. And she peers into it, and she notices that he has these like metal teeth that are painted white and this like intense blackness in the center of him and a tongue. And then she's like, why does he have a tongue? He shouldn't have a tongue. That's really gross and weird.
Yeah.
And so she kind of gets freaked out. And he does this thing where he licks her cheek, and she immediately is like, oh, no, and like pats her face, and she goes, it felt wet, but when she touches her cheek, it's dry. So there's a sensation of wetness without it actually being wet. And to me, that is one of the grossest things I have ever read in a book ever.
Also, that is if somebody said that in like just random conversation, that phrase, I would say, title of your sex tape.
Yes, exactly.
Because that is such an odd thing, but also like it's a way to like tell somebody like, I'm kind of into you, but not really. Like,
but not really.
The sensation of wetness, but not like.
I think sensation of wetness should be either an indie rock band or a sex tape, or both.
Yeah, exactly. Or the name of an album from a band, but it's an evocative phrase. So well played.
Mm-hmm. He strokes her face with his giant animatronic paw and giggles because he says, "Oops, I smeared blood on you," and he kind of giggles about it, and she's like, "You're psychotic," and he doesn't disagree. Ramona is still freaking out. Frankie explains that Gus doesn't really die. He then, without like there's no bridge, he just goes, Gus doesn't really die. And then he immediately starts saying that he's never felt like this with anybody else. So he goes from like, Gus doesn't really die to I love you. Like, don't worry
about that guy over there. Don't worry about that guy you thought I eviscerated.
Pay no attention to the man behind the door.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Yeah. And he says that he has never felt like this with anybody, and he's really kind of laying it on thick of like, I really have feelings for you, blah, blah, blah. And then he says that he, quote unquote, killed Gus because he was hurting her. And he says that they need to get everybody out of there because Gus is going to want to kill everybody. And so she's like, what do you mean? He's like, we have to get all of the children. We have to get everybody out of this restaurant. Gus is going to kill people. And as he says that, Gus hacks through the door with a fire hatchet and has his own, like, where's Johnny moment? Okay. Or here's Johnny moment. And it, like, peeks his eye through the gap and just starts screaming, like, Frankie, I'm gonna get you, Frankie. And so it's, like, peak, like, classic horror movie moment, and it's pretty great. Frankie then turns to Ramona and says that he doesn't want to kill her, or she says, please don't kill me. And he says, I don't want to kill you, but I don't have that I might not have that choice. So please remember that if I do kill you, I didn't want to. And she's like, okay. And like she's immediately like, I gotta go.
Yeah, no, that makes me feel totally better. You didn't want to kill me, but you had to.
Kill me?
You know what?
You had to. Yeah. She then, there's a couple of pages, I guess, of her describing like how she's getting these children out. And she eventually is like, we're going to play hide and seek. So she's trying to get these children out by convincing them to play hide and seek. She is running around trying to like figure out what to do. And before she can actually convince any of the children to leave, the animatronic show starts up with Frankie front and center. So the curtain opens, all of the animatronics are on, they start to have their show, and she starts to have a mental breakdown because she's like, am I hallucinating? Like, Frankie just like cut Gus's throat, and then he's telling me he loves me, and now he's on stage playing a fake guitar with his other animatronic buddies, and what's happening. And so she thinks she's having a breakdown. So she starts to like back up in her little rollerblades, and she immediately bumps into Gus, who is covered in blood, but he doesn't have any wounds anymore. And she then sees that Gus has a chainsaw.
Of course. Why wouldn't he? So
we now have a chainsaw. Frankie and his band are on stage. They start playing, and Ramona starts to fight Gus. And again, her psycho personality starts to come out, and she breaks Gus's nose with her with her roller skate, and it's a pretty nasty break, and she starts laughing. She's like, "Haha, I got you."
Oh, God. I mean, I'd be laughing too, but also, as somebody who's broken his nose a couple times. Oh.
I know. It's just not great. But he pops it back into place because Gus is not, we're quickly gathering Gus is not human. And he stands up and he just yells, "Frankie, kill mode." And Frankie, the animatronic, his eyes glow red, and he is now no longer the Frankie that was being nice to Ramona. He is now this, like, truly homicidal machine. Yeah. And it turns, your comment about it being very Five Nights at Freddy's, it does turn into that. It's like, oh no, what is happening? It's incredibly creepy. Gus tosses the chainsaw to Frankie, and he's like, "Have at it." And Frankie, in his, like, pre-recorded voice, says, "Oh wow, this is gonna be messy, kids." Like, it's so awful. It's so gross and awful. But it's like, when I was explaining that this book started to rewire my brain, I'm not actually a horror reader. I don't read a lot of horror books. I can't watch horror movies. I get really freaked out. This was the exact level of, like, hilarious and gory. Like, the gore it doesn't scare me. It made it funnier. Like, somehow, I don't know how she did it, but Beatrix Hollow made the gore hilarious in this story. And the delivery of the lines, and the fact that it is so incredibly, it's like splatter, like Quentin Tarantino-esque. It's over the top, but it's funny. But then there's sexy moments, and you're like, I don't know what's happening, but my brain is forever changed.
Yeah, if horror and comedy go together like chocolate and peanut butter when it's done right.
Yeah, I like that.
And one of the best examples that I've ever seen, if you've never seen the movie Tucker and Dale versus Evil, I highly recommend it.
Oh my God, that's one of my favorite. It's so good.
It's so good, but so you've seen it, but listener, if you have not seen it, it is a pitch perfect blend of comedy and horror that I highly recommend. The excellent Ty Labine, the excellent Alan Tudyk. You can't go wrong with it. So go check that out if you haven't seen it.
It's one of the better, I feel like one of the better comedy horror movies, I'd say, the last however many years. When I don't remember when it came out, but like 15, 20 years. Like, it's one of the better
I think it was like 10 years ago. Yeah.
10 years, yeah. Yeah, it's great. But it has that element to it of, like, you are not really meant to be scared. You were just meant to kind of be like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. So Ramona is trying to escape, and then almost immediately Gus starts chanting in Latin because Gus is a Satanist. And all of the parents and the drug dealers from the back room hear all of this commotion, and they come running out. And Frankie, in his just homicidal haze, turns on one of the, like, roided out, like, belligerent dads and chainsaws him in the neck. And it just... it's bad. So that happens, and then it just, like I said, it turns into a Tarantino, like, Kill Bill-esque situation. There is blood everywhere. Frankie kills that dad. He takes the arm off of a mom, and he starts chasing the other parents and, like, the drug dealers around with a chainsaw. So a sexy animatronic coyote in a pinstripe suit with a rainbow tie holding a chainsaw is chasing down drug dealers and coked out moms and just each and every single one of them.
Hey, thank you. Let me mark that right there so I know exactly where to go for the cold open.
Yeah, exactly.
That sentence is perfect.
So, as all of this is happening, Ramona, she tries to get to the front door. Gus locks her in. He pulls down the gate, the metal grate, and deadbolts it. And he's like, "See you later," and just dips out. And she's like, "Oh my God, he's locked us in here with these animatronics." At one point, Frankie yells at the team, his like band. He's like, "Time for some death metal." So it's all of these great one-liners, and they start playing death metal while Frankie's, like, cutting through all of these guys with chainsaws. I don't think I've laughed that much about a chainsaw massacre my entire life. It was great.
No, it's good, and again, it's extremely evocative and extremely hilarious to imagine the animatronics doing that while one of the other animatronics carves the crowd like a Thanksgiving turkey.
While, like, Guns N' Roses is playing.
Exactly.
So Ramona realizes, okay, like, I'm stuck. She then realizes that she has left a pizza in the oven. And she's like, oh God, it's gonna... She's left a pizza. I know. She's like, oh no, I've left a pizza in the oven. And so Ray, who has, like, very narrowly escaped Frankie. Ray is still there, by the way, her shitty ex-stepfather. Yeah. He's still there. All this
is going on.
Well, all this is going on. He's still there. And she is, like, with him when she's like, oh my God, I left a pizza in the oven. And he's like, are you dumb? And she's like, no, but this place will burn down with all of us trapped in it if I don't go get that pizza. So she then has to shimmy rollerblade her way down to the kitchen.
Because she's probably not great on these skates.
She's not great on these skates, and she doesn't get better, so it's just all bad. And so she roller skates her way to the kitchen. She gets the pizza out, and that's when some of the parents and other people have followed her into the kitchen and are hiding, and Frankie appears. And he's like, I see you, and it's very creepy. So when he appears, he starts to come at her, and then he kind of starts to, she describes it as like malfunctioning, where he starts to kind of be like, and he's like twitching, and then he says her name in kind of a weird broken robotic voice. He's like, Ramona. And it dawns on her, oh, he's like calling out to me. He's like trying to fight this like, you know, Winter Soldier mode. He's trying, you know, and he's like, I don't want to actually do this. And so he slows himself down, and then somebody knocks a bowl of shredded cheese off of the counter. And he turns on them, and he's like, oh, I see you, and, like, just chainsaws them in the stomach. And so she runs away. Sorry, she skates away. So then she's gotten away. She has made it to the arcade, and Frankie catches her. But he doesn't, like, immediately attack her. He just holds on to her, and he's trying to convince her, like, I promise I'm not going to hurt. He's like, I'm not going to hurt you. Stop running. And she's like, absolutely not. And so she wriggles her way out, and she gets out of there. And she hides in the ball pit. And after reading about blood and gore and people getting their arms chopped off via chainsaw, I think this is the part where I actually went, oh, gross. Because
this
ball
is the worst part.
Are cesspools. And it is so gross to me that she gets to the very bottom of the ball pit and, like, covers herself with rainbow plastic balls. And is like, I'm just going to be under here. And I'm like, I'd rather get the chainsaw.
I was gonna say I'd rather get the death over quickly, as opposed to whatever disease is plural that I got.
Some form of like I don't know, cholera. Like there's like ancient diseases down there, flesh-eating bacteria.
Yeah, that's what people didn't realize. That's what the ball pits were for, just trying to keep that stuff underneath. They were actually like hellmouths, containing some just long forgotten disease. And now
it's like the ice. It's like the ice caps. Like the ice caps are melting, so now we have all these like bacteria that are coming back, and like plagues and terrible diseases. Yeah, if you disrupt the ball pit ecosystem, then you're gonna catch some ancient disease that only dinosaurs had. It's so gross. And of course, Frankie finds her in the ball pit, and he catches her. He's like, oh, you're in here. And he gets into the ball pit with her, and he is screaming at her, or they're both yelling at each other, essentially. She's like, don't kill me. And he's like, I don't want to kill you. And then he says, like, they're kind of going back and forth with how he promises he doesn't want to kill her. She's like, how do I trust you, blah, blah, blah. And then he offers another method of how to test that he doesn't want to kill her, and that's by eating her out in the ball pit. What?
The wildest shifts.
It's
the wildest.
It is not ever where I would want to be eaten out. It is not ever where I want any sexual activity to ever happen. Again, like I said, that's where you're going to get the flesh-eating bacteria. But in Frankie's Funhouse, I guess we're here for it.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's more dangerous than anything you could get from unprotected sex, is whatever you'd get in the ball pit.
Like, some kid, like, lost a toenail at the bottom of that thing, and it has some disgusting disease.
It's just been growing. tendrils.
It's like pond scum. There's just something. It's so gross. So, like, genuinely, in this entire horror book, the thing that creeped me out the most was the ball pit and the, like, oh, we're having sexy time in the ball pit?
Mm-mm.
Okay, all right. I guess. I'm not so sure about that, though. I did have to highlight, though, this line. Ramona is questioning her sanity big time. She is now at the point where she thinks half the time she's like, this is a hallucination, and the other half she's like, I don't know. I guess, like, hell is real and I'm in it. Like, she's just, okay, well, it's just a lot of shrugging.
I'd say that makes two of us, Ramona. I'm questioning your sanity as well.
I'm questioning. I don't think I would have questioned her sanity if she'd, like, immediately started making out with him, but the fact that she's letting him eat her out in a ball pit, I'm like, oh, now I'm definitely questioning your sanity. You are not. Okay. But I did have to highlight this line, because he has now, like, undressed her, they're getting to it, and she's like, this is so wrong, but I deserved a little treat after the shift from hell.
Yeah,
so
fair.
she's like, listen, had a really terrible day. I saw my boss get murdered in front of me, and then he came back to life, and then that woman started yelling at me about pizza, and all of these kids have not washed their hands in 10 years. And you know what? I just deserve it. I deserve an orgasm. Sexy fun times happen in the ball pit. That is also where we are introduced to Frankie's weird dick, because he does in fact have one.
Oh, Katie's going to be so happy. I'm so excited for her to hear the episode, because she loves to listen to the show, because like she always said, she made the podcast she wanted to listen to. But now she gets to listen to her podcast that she did not actually present. So I'm really excited for her to hear this. And she can't hear you. She can hear me talking about it, but she can't hear you saying it. So it's going to be a surprise.
Surprise weird dick for Katie.
I'll allow it this one time.
This one time.
You can have a little weird dick as a treat. As a treat.
Yes. So Frankie does have a weird dick. It is rainbow metallic. I think that means, like, painted rainbow. Like, not. So painted rainbow metallic with flashing light bumps on the side. And it vibrates.
Of course it. Why wouldn't it?
Of course it does. So to me, it's like somebody took the metal from, like, one of the old style, like, carnival, like, I don't know. It just has that, like, like the light up machine things. They took that metal and just elongated it and made it into a dick. And this is also when, so he pulls his dick out because he's like, he asks if he can fuck her, and she's like, what are you talking about? And he pulls his dick out, and that's where we see the weird dick. And she's like, oh my God, why do you have a dick? And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, it's my cock. What do you mean?
Why wouldn't
And she's like, why do you have a cock? And he's like, well, of course I have a cock. Gus isn't, he's like, Gus is terrible, but he's not a monster. Like, of course I have a...
Like, you're the crazy one here, Ramona. Of course I have a penis.
Of course I have hello. I'm a sexy, hot animatronic coyote. Of course I have a dick.
Look at these shoulders and tell me I'm not fucking.
Listen, this pinstripe suit is sexy, okay?
Yeah.
The ladies love it. So, of course, I have a dick. It's so funny. Okay. So, they have that kind of shark fight, and that is when Gus returns. So, you can kind of tell that, like, maybe an hour has passed. Gus thinks that the massacre is over. He returns. He's yelling for Frankie, and Frankie seems scared of Gus, and Ramona immediately is like, what is going on? What is the backstory? So, here is Frankie and Gus's backstory. Both were Satanists, and they made demon deals. Frankie wanted to be famous, so he was turned into an animatronic and made a famous kids show character. And then Gus wanted power, so he was turned into Frankie's manager. And Gus can't die because he's always killing people as a sacrifice to maintain his Satanist power, whereas Frankie is just Frankie. And Frankie says that he didn't commit as much. He just, like, went to a crossroads and made a deal, and then he's like, oh, this isn't what I wanted, but okay. I'm stuck as a coyote now.
At least I'm a hot coyote.
At least I'm a hot coyote. Oh, well. And he said that he just wanted his music to make people happy, so that's why he got turned into a kid's show character. It's very sweet. Ramona's like, oh my God, you're so sweet. That's so nice. And then she almost immediately says, I'm going to kill Gus. She's like, okay.
I'm going to find a way.
But,
and also, for the record, I think the phrase hot coyote, redundant. I'm just saying.
That is true. After Wiley The coyote was on,
Yeah.
the OG.
I mean, that was an awakening for a lot of kids, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. And the Robin Hood fox from like old style Disney. Yeah. Yeah, you get it. So Ramona's like, okay, well that's a very sweet story. I'm sorry that you got trapped as a coyote. I'm gonna kill Gus. And she's like super gung ho about it. She's like, how do I do it? And Frankie's like, what are you talking about? She's like, no, I'm gonna kill Gus. Tell me how to do it. So he says, well, the only way to kill Gus is to decapitate him. So Gus is going around checking on everything, trying to find them. And she's like, sounds great. So she goes and looks for the chainsaw. Oh, by the way, she is now she's like naked from the waist down. So she has, and she's taken her skates off. So she's in her socks, but she has no bottoms on. And she's still in that weird like clown collar and crop top. And she even mentions it. And she's like, this is not how I should go into battle. But oh well. So, it's just a very funny image to me. Ray is still alive, by the way. Ray has not died. He's still like, he is, he's almost the final girl, except he's not. Thank God he's not. But it's like, you're getting real close, man. So Ray pops up out of fucking nowhere, and Ramona is like, oh God, not you again. And after some back and forth, Ray's, really belligerent. And Frankie turns on Ray and says, my girl doesn't like you. And so he just guts him. Goodbye, Ray.
The Ray problem is solved.
The Ray problem is solved.
All right.
Thank God. No more Ray. So then Ramona gets a chainsaw. Gus and her start fighting. Frankie gets turned into kill mode again. And it's kind of this like slow lumbering. He's like far enough away that he can't quite get to her as fast. So her and Gus are fighting. And as she's fighting, she's kind of yelling at Gus, like, I can't believe you did this to him. You're terrible, blah, blah, blah. And Gus is like, you don't understand what you're doing. And he tries to plead with her to not kill him because it will release Frankie. And he's like, Frankie will kill everybody. Don't do this. And she's like, too late. And she decapitates Gus with the chainsaw.
All right.
Completely ignores all of the warning signs and is just like, nope, goodbye. Dispatches his head from his shoulders. There is no more Gus. Frankie comes out of kill mode and immediately starts laughing. And he's like, oh my God, you did it. You really did it. And she's like, yeah, I did. And she has this very like chipper, like, I did it. Yay. And she's like covered in blood. And it's like, wow, you are insane. Like Ramona might be nuts. And so he goes over to her. He's like holding her face in his giant animatronic coyote paws. And he's like, you were just so. And she's like, cool, amazing, you're a hero. And he's like, you are so gullible.
Uh-oh.
Because Frankie is not actually a trapped human soul in a coyote's body. He's a demon. Frankie is the demon. Gus made a deal and trapped Frankie into whatever had electricity, so he trapped him in an animatronic coyote. So when she kills Gus and Frankie is released, he then possesses all of the like TVs and the arcade games and stuff, and he starts talking to her through the TV's speakers. And she's asking like, why? What is this? Blah, blah, blah. And this is when we get into more of the fucking, and it starts a little odd. This is why I was like, okay, so we need the like DubCon kind of blanket consent, blanket issue. But then we also have the electric play come in. So Frankie is no longer in his animatronic coyote body. He's in all of the electronics. And so he starts using the electrical cords and there's some light bondage, but he starts using the electrical cord like prongs on her. And to me, that I'm like, okay, we have the second thing in this that makes me go, no, thank you. First it was the ball pit, now it's the electric cords.
Yeah.
But his weird cock comes back into play.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Because I need to hear more about that.
In case you were worried that the cock wouldn't come back, the weird cock wouldn't come back.
I wasn't. I really wasn't.
So Frankie is possessing the electrical cords. He's using the electricity to, it is getting her off. She does like it, but it's like in her brain, she's like, I shouldn't like this, but I do. And this is when we have some more of the like degradation and surprise submission. So she starts to kind of go into a subspace kind of setting where she's like, oh, I'm actually liking this. Like he's kind of making fun of her, but she's like, oh, I like it. Like, he's calling her names, whatever. He then repossesses the coyote, and he's like, you wanted to fuck an animatronic coyote. He says that. He's like, you wanted to fuck me like this. And she's like, well, yeah.
Yeah, you got me there. Touche.
Listen, you have a swimmer's bod. I don't know, man. You've got broad shoulders. Let me climb you. So he then, of course, pulls out his weird dick. It is lighting up. And they start fucking on top of one of the ticket machines. So the, like, old school ticket booths. They're fucking there. And then he goes, oh, let me see if you like this. And he turns on his cock and it starts vibrating. And it's also lighting up. And she's like, what is that? And I feel like the only thing that could have added to this is if it had, like, the bell sounds, like, from old school arcade games. I really expected for the bell sound to happen at some point. But, you know, we'll just stay with the lights. It is actually, like, really well done sex scene. It's, like, Jesus, it's, like, 8 pages. I'm, like, flipping through right now. There's a lot of, like, again, the degradation. But then you see that Frankie's like, I do actually like you. And he starts... He's like, I'm gonna, you know, call you my pet. And she's like, no, I don't know about that. And then she comes multiple times. He finally finishes. And she is surprised that she feels something.
I was going to say, I need to know. Because I have a thought.
Uh-huh. What's your thought?
Tickets.
What's your thought?
Tickets. And like,
I wish it'd been tickets.
The better she does, the more, like... So she can get a better prize out of better prize out of the cabinet. It's not, though. What was your like top tier goal prize at any of those arcades? What was the thing that you wanted always? God, they had these like cheap knockoff Transformers, but they just looked cooler. Because they were all like real shiny metallic. But they were like completely knockoff. I never got one. Mm-hmm. But my mom was like, dude, I'll get you a real one.
I'll just get you a real Transformer.
It's fine. It would actually be cheaper to just get a real Transformer than to give you the coins in your lack of skill as a child. Mm-hmm. It's just easier to go spend, like, I think back then, like, who knows, like $10 on a Transformer. It's
like you'll spend $100 in quarters trying to get it, or you can just go to Target.
Exactly.
Mine
so
was
it's
always...
not tickets. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to.
Oh, no, that's okay.
No,
that's
go
okay.
ahead, please.
I was just going to say mine was, they had like a mini TV that you could like take. I wanted the mini TV. That was always I never got it, but I wanted the mini TV.
Oh, no, they never had the mini TVs, but that was always the prize that I wanted when we were in elementary school and we had to like sell stuff, you know, like the chocolate bars or whatever. And they always had like a little mini portable TV with like these big antennas. And
that you could like take camping. And it's like, when am I ever going to go camping? I just want to have a blanket for it and have TV in my blanket for it.
Exactly.
Well, no, he doesn't come tickets. She is kind of like, what is this? And he's like, oh, it's ectogasm. So it's like a weird, which to me, I'm like, that's so much worse. I'd rather there be tickets.
Worse. It's way worse. I mean, paper cuts, maybe, I don't know, but in a very sensitive area. Yeah. But also, what the hell is that?
I know, it's just described as like she says that it's plentiful, and I'm like, well, I don't like that either.
Oh.
But I don't know, because my only real like exposure to any sort of like ectoplasm in media is the stuff from Ghostbusters. Yep. And I'm like, I don't want that on me at all. Like, I don't want Slimer. Like, no.
Nope. No, thank you.
But you know what? She's into it. And I guess the light up vibrating dick is good enough for her to be like, sure, I'll deal with the ectogasm. So after they have sex, and she definitely got her tickets worth. she had a good old time.
Tickets. Okay.
Yeah, she had a good old time. But then he starts kind of acting a little maniacal, and he's like, "Oh, you're so cute. I want to keep you. I want you to be my pet." But he's like kind of manic, and he's pacing back and forth. And she's like, "I don't know about this." And she figures out, and I'm trying to find. I didn't have time to write it down in my notes, so I guess it doesn't really matter. But she finds out how to do the satanic spell. I think she remembered what Gus was saying.
Okay. And
so she then starts, while Frankie is like in his maniacal state of doing whatever, she starts chanting the same phrase that she heard, and she's like, da da da. And at one point he stops and he's like, you pronounced something wrong. And she's like, oh, thanks. And she starts. So he gets trapped again because she's like, listen, man, I get it, but like, no. Like, you can't just go around being a demon and like killing everybody. Because he's like, he, in a weird, like, super villain way, he starts kind of being like, I'm gonna do this, and this, and this, and I'm gonna go after these people, and then I'm gonna do, and she's like, anyway, and like, she's like finding...
But again, he could not resist the male urge to correct her, even though it meant his ultimate demise.
Exactly! He mansplained himself back into a body.
Exactly. That's the ultimate lesson of this book.
Mm-hmm. And he starts to, what is it? He said, so he, in his maniacal back, and he's like correcting her and whatever, and he says, you know, I do have, talking about he has powers now, and she's like, listen, I can't let you kill people, like, that's just not cool. I'm into the animatronic thing, though, like, we can still fuck, but I can't, like, this is fine. We can have our, like, weird... And she's acknowledging at this point that she is probably much more damaged than she realized. And she's like, I'm fine with homicide. Like, whatever. But, like, I can't let you kill the whole world, because that's kind of what you're planning to do. And so she's like, I should get something... You know, she traps him. And then she's like, I should get something out of this deal. She kind of makes a deal with him. And she's like, I should get something out of this deal. And he is kind of like, okay, fine. So they set up their arrangement of like, we're still gonna like hook up and like it's gonna be best sex ever, it'd be great. And then he's like, but I should get something too. And she's like, okay, what do you want? And he's like, let me kill the rat. She's like, what? He's like, the conniving bastard who stole my deal, the rat selling pizza, let me kill him. And she's like, Chuck E. Cheese? And she's like, is he a demon too? And he's like, of course he's a demon. We're all demons. All animatronics, like, he just goes off about, like, all of these, like, famous animatronics are demons. And she's like, all right, bud. And so finally, they come to an agreement of, like, all right. He begrudgingly is like, okay, fine, I'll stay in the animatronic coyote. I won't try to murder anybody anymore unless you say I can. And, like, we'll just hook up all the time. And she's like, sounds great. Deal. And then she's like, you know what? I really like you too, Frank. He's like, you know what, Ramona? I really like you. It has that at the end of Fight Club vibe of like, you met me at a weird time in my life. Hey, you met me at a weird time in my life too. And so they're like, I really like you. I really like you too. And then she goes, I really like you, Frankie. And then she says, all right, let's kill the fucking animatronic rat. And like, that's the last line.
Wow.
So they just go off into psychotic bliss together.
What a ride.
Right?
That
the
was
end.
I'm so glad you picked that. That was fantastic because again, I mean, I grew up in the 80s. I was very lucky to be raised by, I think, like the one mother who could not have given two shits about the satanic panic of the 80s. My mom's just like, it's a bunch of fucking crackpots.
Amazing.
Don't listen to them. Don't worry about it. Go play. Nobody's coming after you. I give my mom a lot of credit for that. Mm-hmm. But it was a lot of, even in just this condensed form, it was extremely evocative of that time as somebody who, you know, grew up in it. So, and I love the blend of the horror and the comedy. If it's in the first volume, if it's in the second volume, I think is the one Katie has, I will go seek it out. I probably just pick it up. Because I need to get more of this because I'm into it. But what are you into?
Transition.
And I had to transition quickly because we're running long. But
I know.
I want to give you the full cheap smut experience. So I know it's fine. No, we digressed and it was totally fine. But I want to give you the full cheap smut experience. So you said you were thinking about it. So what are you into?
This week I am into yoga. Which I know might be a little bit of a bland answer, given that I just covered Frankie's Funhouse. But I am into yoga. I injured my foot last year, and it was like a dislocated bone. Of course, I'm me, so I didn't go to a doctor. And it did fix itself. So I can't believe it did, but it did. But I, in that process, gave myself plantar fasciitis as well. So, like, I had a dislocated foot bone plus plantar fasciitis. And I've started doing more yoga to help that. And it's actually what a shock. It's working. So I'm just going to keep up with the yoga. And it's actually, I've missed it. I used to do yoga a lot and I've fallen off my practice. So the fact that I'm doing it now, I'm like, oh, I really like this again. So, and I swim a lot too. But yeah, starting yoga, which I know is kind of a very like, you just talked about an animatronic coyote fucking and murdering his way through pizzeria.
You haven't heard what I'm going to say yet either. So, I mean, maybe mine is kind of tame by comparison. And it actually is. Today, Friday, March 1st, a friend of mine, a wonderful human being, a hilarious person, but also a tremendous musician. His name is Fernando Silverio Solis. And he released a new single today called In a Way I've Never Known. And it's for somebody who... I know his background as a musician. He came from more of a hardcore scene, and now he is straight up just folk Americana. And it's just another beautiful, beautiful song of his. I'm going to link it in the show notes so everybody will have a chance to hear it. And I highly recommend that if you have the means to do so, go out and support his music because I've gotten to know him. I knew him a little bit. I knew of him prior to us meeting, but then we met at Diplomat when we both worked at Diplomat Pharmacy, of all places, and we became friends.
Oh, that's awesome!
Yeah, and so he's just a great dude and a fucking phenomenal musician. So I want you to go check that out. But if somebody wants to check you out, how can they find you on the internet?
You can find me on TikTok and Instagram at Gwendolyn Harper Books. All of my stuff is on KU, so you can find my work there. I am soon launching my website so that I can ship out signed copies of my books because I am in a blessed position where almost every day I have somebody DMing me asking for a signed copy of my books.
That's awesome.
Which is very lovely. But then it made me go, oh, right, I should have a website. So
yeah.
Put a website together.
Yeah, we got to get one of those too.
Yeah, it helps. And yeah, I think that... Oh, and I'm on Patreon as well. If you're already a fan of my work and want to help support me more, I'm on Patreon at patreon.com/ I think it's just Gwendolyn Harper Books. Same deal.
I'll make sure that it gets accurate in the show notes.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
But in the meantime, you can find us on social media. We are on Instagram and TikTok at Cheap Smut. If you would like to send us an email, you can do so, cheapsmutpod@gmail.com. The music that you hear in this and every episode is called Nostalgia by Mackay Beats. You can find it, along with thousands of other songs, free of charge for you to use at the Free Music Archive, freemusicarchive.org. Now, if you would like to support the author, you can try... I'll link to the KU version of this.
Yeah.
So when this episode drops, it'll be the top link in our link tree. Click on it. We don't get paid for this. We're just trying to help the authors out. Speaking of helping people out financially, you can find us on Patreon as well, where we only ask for $1 because we are cheap smut after all. And you can do so like these fine folks, like Stephanie Hawkins, Gemma, Lady Squishy Buns, Tia Esk, Rob Gatika, Angela McNichols, Katie Hurd, some nerd named Gwendolyn Harper, Seneca O, and Rebecca K.
I love that. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for doing this. We are deeply appreciative. We have become friends. Well, Katie and you and Katie have become very close friends, and so you're a close friend of mine. You will crash our Thanksgiving. Yeah, we're friends.
Carl, we're
friends. Gwendolyn says we're friends, and Katie gives the thumbs up, so it's cool. And look at how cute my cat is sitting with her little cross.
Oh, he's perfect.
Yeah, so that's our little.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna crush your Thanksgiving. I need you to know it's gonna happen. I'm just gonna show up on your
That's
door.
totally okay. But in the meantime, if there's a book in you, write it, and if there's fucking in it, Katie will read it, and then she will come on this show once her teeth have healed and explain it to me for your entertainment. Gwendolyn Harper, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. This was a blast. I love you guys.
We love you too, buddy.